The remote control is one of those objects we barely think about until it stops working. It sits on the couch, disappears into cushions, runs out of battery at the worst time, and somehow still controls a huge part of daily life. But the interesting thing is that a remote is not just one invention. It is really a whole family of inventions. Over time, remotes have used wires, beams of light, high-frequency sound, infrared light, radio waves, Bluetooth, and even Wi-Fi through your phone. So when people say, remote control, they are talking about a simple idea with a surprisingly long and clever history. What a remote control really is at the most basic level, a remote control is just a way to send a command from your hand to a machine from a distance. Press a button here, something happens over there. That command might travel through a wire, through invisible light, through sound, through radio waves, or through a home network. The goal is always the same: let the person control the device without walking up to it. That sounds ordinary now, but it changed how people used TVs, stereos, streaming boxes, garage doors, and smart home devices. The remote made control feel instant. The first type was wired. The early TV remote was not wireless at all. In 1950, Zenith introduced the Lazy Bones remote. It used a cable running from the viewer to the television. Pressing buttons on the remote moved the tuner inside the TV and could also turn the set on and off. People liked the idea right away because they could control the TV from across the room. But the cable was ugly, messy, and easy to trip over. So the first big lesson in remote control history was simple. People loved remote control, but they did not want a wire stretched across the floor to get it. Then came light-based wireless remotes in 1955. Zenith introduced the Flashmodich, the first wireless TV remote. Instead of using a cable, it used a directional beam of light aimed at photocells on the television. This was a huge step because it proved people could control a TV without any wire at all. But it had a big weakness. If sunlight hit the TV directly, the system could get confused and the tuner might start moving on its own. So the first wireless TV remote was exciting, but it was not reliable enough to become the final answer. It looked futuristic, but it could still be fooled by something as ordinary as daylight in the living room. Then came ultrasonic remotes. Zenith's next major step was ultrasonic control. In 1956, the company moved to its Space Command system, which used very high-frequency sound beyond normal human hearing. Instead of sending light, the remote sent sound signals that the TV could detect. This mattered because it solved some of the Flashmodich's problems and made wireless remote control feel more practical. Ultrasonic remotes were clever and important because they show that the modern remote did not jump straight from wire to today's TV clicker. There was a middle stage where engineers were still testing what kind of signal worked best inside real homes. Why infrared became the normal TV remote for most people. The classic remote is the infrared remote, also called an IR remote. This became the dominant technology in home theater and TV control. An IR remote sends out pulses of invisible infrared light. Those pulses represent coded commands like power, volume, mute, or channel change. The receiver on the TV or stereo picks up those pulses, decodes them, and passes the instruction to the device's processor. So when you press volume up, you are not sending a word. You are sending a coded burst of invisible light. That is what made the modern TV remote simple, quiet, and cheap enough to become normal in almost every home. Why you have to point some remotes? Infrared remotes work with light, and light has limits. That is why many TV remotes need line of sight. The signal usually has to travel in a fairly direct path to the receiver on the front of the device. How Stuff Works notes that IR remotes generally work only within about 30 feet and do not go through walls or around corners. That is also why pointing matters and why a cabinet door or a badly aimed remote can stop things from working. A simple way to think about it is this. An IR remote is like a tiny flashlight that your eyes cannot see, but your TV can. Why infrared stayed popular anyway even with those limits? IR became the standard because it was cheap, fast, and good enough for the same room devices most people wanted to control. You sit in front of the TV, point the remote, and it works. That is all most people need. IR systems also reduced problems like signals going through walls and accidentally controlling something in another room. In other words, infrared was not perfect, but it hit the sweet spot between simplicity, cost, and reliability. That is why the TV remote most people still picture in their head is an IR remote. The next big category is radio frequency remotes. Not every remote uses light. Some use radio waves instead. These are radio frequency, or RF, remotes. According to how stuff works, RF remotes are common in garage door openers, car alarm fobs, and radio-controlled toys. Instead of flashing light at a receiver, they send radio signals carrying coded commands. The big advantage is range. RF remotes can work farther away and can often go through walls or doors. That makes them better for devices that are not sitting directly in front of you, like a garage door opener or some hidden entertainment equipment. So the easiest way to remember the difference is this. IR is great when the device is in front of you, while RF is better when distance, walls, or closed cabinets get in the way. Bluetooth remotes are a modern version of that idea. Bluetooth remotes are another wireless type, but they are a more modern and smarter version of short-range radio control. Android's developer documentation describes Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, as a way to transmit small amounts of data with much lower power use. That is useful for battery-powered devices like remotes. Red Rat explains that many Bluetooth remotes use BLE and the hid-over-GATT profile to communicate with devices like set-top boxes. Apple's support pages also show that modern Siri remotes use Bluetooth to communicate with Apple TV while also including IR for controlling other devices. That mix matters because it shows where remote controls are going. Newer remotes often combine technologies instead of using just one. That is why many streaming remotes feel different. A classic TV remote mostly sends simple one-way commands. A newer streaming remote often does more. It may pair with the device, support voice search, and keep working without being pointed perfectly at the screen. Apple's current TV remotes use Bluetooth plus an IR transmitter, while older Apple remotes were IR only. Roku also distinguishes between simple IR remotes and enhanced or voice remotes. So the streaming era did not kill the remote. It upgraded it. Modern remotes are often part old-school clicker, part wireless accessory, and part microphone. Your phone can also become a remote. One of the biggest changes in recent years is that the remote is no longer always a separate object. Sometimes it is just your phone. Google says the Google TV app can be used on a phone or tablet as a remote for Android TV, as long as the device connects correctly and pairs. Samsung also says SmartThings can turn your phone into a remote for a TV or projector, with on-screen controls for volume, channel, mute, navigation, and more. That means the idea of the remote has expanded. It is no longer just a plastic device with buttons. It can also be a touchscreen app on a device you already carry all day. Some remotes work through the home network. This is where things get even more interesting. Apple explains that a network-based remote can control Apple TV 4K through the network, which means it does not need to be pointed directly at the device. That is a major shift from classic IR logic. Once a remote becomes network-based, it starts acting less like a flashlight and more like a connected control system. It also starts to blend into the wider smart home world, where phones, apps, speakers, and home platforms all overlap. In that world, the remote is no longer just a single object. It is part of a whole control ecosystem. One remote can now control other devices too. Another modern twist is that sometimes the remote you are using is not even talking directly to the device in the old way. Apple notes that if a TV or receiver supports HDMI CEC, Apple TV can be controlled by the TV or receiver remote through the HDMI connection. In simple words, devices can now pass some control functions through the cable linking them together. So instead of juggling several remotes, your setup can sometimes let one remote handle more than one box. That is why many living rooms slowly moved from a pile of remotes toward fewer, smarter controllers. Universal remotes tried to solve the remote pile problem as more home devices arrived. People ended up with a remote for the TV, another for the cable box, another for the DVD player, another for the sound system, and sometimes more. Universal remotes were built to reduce that clutter. Apple's support guide even notes that Apple TV 4K can learn signals from a universal infrared remote. That shows the basic idea. Instead of each device needing its own separate clicker, one remote can learn or store codes for many devices. It is a simple idea, but it came from a real problem in daily life. As homes added more electronics, the remote itself had to evolve into a multi-device controller. Why the remote mattered so much? The remote did more than save people from standing up. The Museum of Broadcast Communications notes that the remote permanently altered television viewing habits, and the same source links remote control to behaviors like channel switching and greater viewer control. That is a big deal. It means the remote was not just a convenience gadget. It changed attention, choice, and behavior inside the home. It let people mute, skip, compare, switch, and browse. It gave viewers more control over the experience instead of forcing them to accept whatever the screen offered next. Why remote controls still matter now? Even in a world of apps, voice assistants, and smart homes, the remote still matters because it is fast, physical, and easy. Pressing one button is often simpler than opening an app, unlocking a phone, or saying a voice command. That is why the remote has not disappeared. It has just split into different forms. Some are still IR. Some are RF. Some use Bluetooth. Some live in your phone. Some work through HDMI or the network. But they all follow the same basic promise: control something from a distance with as little friction as possible. So the story of the remote control is really the story of making control easier. It started with a wire on the floor, then moved through light, sound, invisible infrared, radio signals, Bluetooth pairing, and phone apps. The technology kept changing, but the human goal stayed the same. People wanted quick, easy control without getting up, without extra effort, and without thinking too hard. That is why the remote became such a normal part of life. It solved a simple problem so well that we now barely notice the technology at all. And that is usually the sign of an invention that truly worked.